domain names and web hosting. For most, when you get started, this whole realm is kind of confusing because there are a lot of different components involved. And within each of those components, there are a lot of things that you can know. But the reality is you don't need to know everything about domain names, web hosting, and getting your website live on the web, because there are basically just a few surface level factors that you need to know that can get you by. Now, for somebody, say like me, where I'm offering my clients full service web development and web design from beginning to end, and I need to transfer their old websites and put up new websites and manage their email and all this sort of stuff, I need to know a little bit more than just getting myself a domain name, getting myself some hosting, and getting my website live using an FTP client. Now, that's really all you need to know, just those three things, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But there is more that you can know, and luckily for you, I do have another course that is free. It's my free course called Web Hosting 101, and it lets you know kind of an in-depth process of getting your website live on the web. But for convenience, we're going to run through that sort of stuff in this section for web hosting and domain names. Okay, so first things first, you're going to need a domain name. Domain name, think of it as your address on the web. That's literally what it is. Your web address, bradhussey.ca, google.com, so on and so forth. That's your address. And you also need hosting. Hosting is the place that your website is hosted. I can't really think of any better way of putting it. Basically, I like to use the real estate when I explain this to my clients. I use the real estate metaphor. To have a house, you need to have a piece of land to put that house. So the piece of land is your hosting. And the house that you put on that piece of land is your website. And the address of that house that you tell your friends or your family where you live, then that's your domain name. So it's kind of that trio. And that's how it works. So to get your domain name and hosting, you could do them separately. You can get your domain name through a website you've probably heard of, GoDaddy.com. And you can find a domain name here. Or you can also bundle your domain name and hosting together and get them done all in one go. And I prefer that for when you're getting started. For me, I already have hosting and a whole bunch of domain names. But to get started, it's best to just bundle them together. And then you could buy more domain names when you need them and host them on your hosting provider. So it's kind of like thinking like you have a really big piece of land and you purchase multiple domain names for different websites, and you have a bunch of houses on your piece of land, so to speak. Rather than buying new pieces of land every time, you buy a big piece of land that can house, no pun intended, a bunch of different houses. So the hosting, what I like to use is JustHost. Now, for those of you who are a current student of mine, you know that I speak highly of JustHost, and I am an affiliate for them. So if you do want to go through my affiliate link, it's simply bradhussey.ca/JustHost, and that takes you to JustHost, and you get the same deal as ever. It doesn't cost you anything to use my affiliate link. I simply get a little bonus for you signing up. But if you do know my reputation with this, I only tell you, I only give you affiliate links for things that I actually use and trust. And JustHost I use for so many websites, and I've been using them for almost a decade at this point. And so all of my clients who don't have hosting, and my friends and even my family, I tell them to use JustHost because I just have such a good experience with them, and they provide such a good service where I haven't had any issues with them, but I've had issues with different web hosting providers. So to get started, I suggest using JustHost. If you want to use GoDaddy, go ahead and do that. If you want to use Bluehost, it's exactly the same as JustHost. In fact, they're the same company, but as you can see, Bluehost is a little bit more expensive than JustHost, $295 versus $395. Or you can use something like HostPapa. That's a Canadian company, and they're pretty good too. But I'm going to go ahead and show you how to use JustHost and get yourself started with your domain and hosting. Click sign up now, and that's going to take you to the sign up page, and you get to choose from a different, 3 different plans here. Starter Plus and Business Pro. For most people, Starter is fine. If you have one website space, 100 gigs, unlimited bandwidth, one domain, 5 park domains, 25 subdomains, 100 email accounts, 500 megabytes per email account, and some bonuses. Now, that's okay if you're just getting started or if you know you're only going to have one single website. But if you're going to have multiple websites, or you think you might have multiple websites in the future, which I think it's safe to assume you will. Even if you only have your one website, you might have more in the future. You might even sell hosting to your clients or, give them a package where you host their website on your hosting. And there you go, you have more than one website. So I suggest the Plus plan. And that's basically going to get you unlimited websites, unlimited space, so on and so forth. You can see the stats here. Business Pro is probably not necessary because unless you look through this and you think, sure, it is necessary. But for most beginners, you don't really need to do this. The things you kind of get are the extra marketing bonuses, spam prevention, which I would skip on. I know better services. SSL certificates if you want to have secure sockets layer, dedicated IP. So a few extra things if you're maybe a professional and you want to have a little bit more security and some backup protection and better performance. But like I said, for most, this is going to do the trick. So go ahead and select either Starter or Plus. And that's going to take you to the Sign Up Now page. And you basically say, I need a domain name or I have a domain name. If you have a domain name, type in your domain name here, for example, bradhussey.ca, and click Next. If you need a domain name, then this is where you could bundle your domain and hosting. The cool thing about Just Host is you get a domain name for free with your hosting package. So it's kind of a win-win here. So you can go ahead and type your website domain here, .com, co, club, you could choose any of these, click Next. And you can see here, your website domain.com is not available. So if that's the case for you, you could just click a different one here or type something else in here. So I'm just going to say, just a bunch of gibberish at the end there. And that will take me probably to an available domain. There we go. It says, congratulations. You can have this incredibly awful website domain. And then you type in your account information. Simply just type in your info here, so on and so forth. Blah, 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 city, state, phone number, email, package information. This is where you want to confirm your package that you're purchasing, the account. So you can do 1 month at $14.99 a month or up to 36 months for $4.95. So obviously the longer, the better for the price. And that's my suggestion. Book it, buy it for as long as you possibly can. Typically 36 months, because after that, every hosting package, this is what you need to know, goes to their default price, which is more expensive than the starter price. So $4.95 a month, $2.95 a month, whatever these other hosting providers are telling you, that's their starter price. Once your plan expires and you get rebilled after your 36-month period, it's going to go to its base price. For Just Host, I believe it's maybe $7, $8, or $9 a month. So in some cases, double. Same with all these other plans. And I found out that the hard way. When I bought my first domain name, I did it for a short amount of time because I didn't want to pay, at the time, $178. That was a lot of money. So I did a year or two thinking that was a good idea. And then I got slapped with a bill for a much bigger monthly price, probably around $10 a month. And it was a little disappointing. So don't make that mistake. Book it for as long as you can. And then, just anticipate knowing that it's going to be more expensive in the future. But that's the case for everything. Setup fee, all this is all good. Constant Contact, you don't need this. If you think you do, then sure. If you have Constant Contact and you want to have it hooked in there, good enough. Domain privacy protection, you can have that if you want your domain name. You can search up your Whois information. You could type in, someone's website, and then it will tell you their address and their technical contact. So if you don't want your address and your phone number and stuff displayed kind of publicly, then you can turn this on, and it will hide it, and it will basically just show Just Host's information, not yours. So I do suggest that. It's very cheap, $1 a month, no problem. Site Backup Pro, if you want to have your site backed up, then like on a regular basis, then you can add that $2 a month. It's not too bad. It's a pretty good deal. But if you don't want that, just uncheck it. Search Engine Jumpstart. I don't think this is a good idea. You can get better search engine optimization through just WordPress plugins and just doing a little bit of research or hiring somebody. Don't do this. This isn't going to get you any benefit. Site lock security. If you want to have, well, if you click here, basically demonstrates to your customers that you're trustworthy. You get a little site lock that you could display on your website. You could it probably puts it up here, like here. Shows the security, all that sort of stuff. So if you have an e-commerce store, this is probably a good idea. And then you go ahead and you type in your credit card number, so on and so forth. You know the deal. Or pay with PayPal, for those of you who like paying with PayPal, and submit that form. And then you'll be sent an email from JustHost that looks just like this. Thanks for choosing JustHost. Appreciate your business. And it gives you some get started stuff, but none of this is important. What is important is your account info and your FTP info. You're going to want to basically save this email. And because you're going to need this stuff. You're going to get a temporary URL, and you're going to get some name servers and so on and so forth, and your FTP information. Good to know. Because when you open up an FTP client, you need to be able to access it using your FTP information. And you have probably, when you went through that process, it asked you to create an account. So obviously make note of your password, and that will also be the password for your FTP. You can change your FTP password, and you can add new FTP accounts later, but you're going to need to keep that information for when we log into our FTP client or our website via the FTP client. And I'll explain that now in a moment.